Good evening. Welcome to the July 23rd, 2013 Planning Commission meeting. Due to the fact that we do not have a chairman or vice chairman present with us tonight, I, Katie Asbury, interim city clerk for the city of Gardner and presiding as secretary of the Gardner Planning Commission, will hereby call this meeting to order. Our first order of business, as stated in Article 5, Section 1 of the Planning Commission's bylaws, states that Robert's Rules of Order shall be followed at all meetings of the Planning Commission. And Chapter 15 of Robert's Rules states that first order of business should be to immediately elect a chairman pro tem to preside during tonight's session. Staff has recommended the nomination of Greg Godwin, who is our most senior member of the Planning Commission, to serve as chairman pro tem for the remainder of tonight's meeting. Do we have a motion?
I move that we elect Greg Godwin temporary chairman.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Commissioner Godwin will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance before taking the chair.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, now that we can proceed, I've had a request that the agenda be modified because the mayor's comments would be made at another time or not at all, something like that. So if I don't hear any objections, we can adjust the agenda by unanimous consent. Okay, that's been removed from the agenda. Okay, let's start on the left with roll call.
Adriana Mater.
Sherry Barber.
Godwin here.
Ray Kimsey here.
Lavella here.
All right. First on the agenda is the consent agenda, which includes one item for approval of the minutes from the June 25th meeting. If I don't hear any objections, we will consider the consent agenda approved. Hearing no objections, the consent agenda is approved. First item on the regular agenda is discussion items, and that first item is Planning Commissioner orientation.
We've created some binders on with some materials to
Okay. There you go. Over there.
You know you have to do the second. I have a question. I guess what I'm wondering is, Greg, would you like to sit through this, or would you like me to make a motion to move the election of the officers up?
I think the agenda's fine. We can go through these and
Okay.
have our elections.
Okay, so we've passed out binders to all of you, and then there's another publication. And I'm just going to very briefly walk through everything that's in there, so feel free to follow along in your binders. First of all, we want to welcome our new planning commissioners. and also to thank our outgoing planning commissioners who are not here tonight. The desk reference manuals that we've provided to you in the binders are organized into basically 5 chapters with multiple documents, and it's a little bit confusing, and I ran out of dividers. I'm not sure what happened to all of them, so we can try to help you better organize it at a later date if needed. The first chapter is sort of general information about Gardner. The Planning Commission information chapter includes things like the bylaws and other information about the Planning Commission. Current planning is about the regulations and development of property in Gardner. Long-range planning information would refer to our comprehensive plan and other long-range planning documents. And then we do have some state of Kansas information like the statutes and some information about the Kansas Open Meetings Act. And so we'll start off with some general information, and this part is not included in your binders, but wanted to, since we have new commissioners here tonight, walk you through sort of the history of Gardner. The town company was chartered on March 16th, 1857, named in honor of Governor Henry J. Gardner of Massachusetts. Original town was platted and surveyed later that year, which was 4 years before Kansas became a state. That was about 320 acres, and the motto for Gardner is "Where the Trails Divide," which is a result of its location near the historic junction of the Santa Fe, California, and Oregon trails. There were hundreds of thousands of people who passed through Gardner Junction, so it's a very important historical location. Early settlers were free state men. One of the first conventions of the country was held in Gardner in 1858. It was also the first town in Kansas to be raided by bushwhackers, which were the border ruffians from Missouri. It was raided a couple of times by bushwhackers. And William Quantrill's gang passed through Gardner on the way to Sac-and-Burn Lawrence in 1863. In 1886, Gardner became an incorporated town of the 3rd class. And over on the right side are buildings that are listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Just some general information, continuing with the sort of the growth of Gardner. First 100 years of growth was very slow, only reaching a population of about 3,000 by 1990. However, a rapid period of growth began in the 1990s, and by 2000 the population had tripled to over 9,000 people. Gardner officially became a city of the 2nd class on September 26, 2002. And by 2010, the population had reached 19,123. Our growth peaked around 2005 and has slowed since that time due to the recession, which is very similar to the decline experienced in the rest of the Kansas City metropolitan area. The U.S. Census in 2010, again, our population was 19,123. With 7,300 housing units and an average household size of 2.62. The population is typically very young. If you look at the graph to the right with the age ranges, predominantly white for the race and predominantly non-Hispanic or Latino for ethnicity. Housing characteristics, roughly 60 to 70% owner-occupied, with the remainder either renter-occupied or vacant. Single-family units that have been constructed is 4,430, according to my data that I've created, so that's not from the U.S. Census. There could be a little bit of difference there. However, the main difference between the housing units from the census and this number is that the census number also includes multifamily units. So 4,430 that have been constructed, and then planned is an additional 1,689 units. Of those 539, there's already a final plat recorded, so the lot is basically shovel-ready, just waiting for a building permit. We also have 1,150 lots that are preliminary platted that have never been final platted. So there is still a little bit of process they would need to go through to be finalized. So the total of constructed and planned